Welcome to this introduction to two of Mahayana Buddhism's most famous traditions, Zen and Pure Land. Both of these integrate the ideas of emptiness and Buddha nature into their practices to help people live with more freedom and joy. If you haven't seen my previous video, which introduces these ideas, you might want to watch that first. Here's the link, and you can find it in the show notes too. Also, you can get the handouts I created for Mahayana and all the schools of Buddhism when you use the link in the show notes. Over the next few weeks, I'll be posting more about the history of Buddhism, so please subscribe now. So, very briefly, I want to just talk about two important Mahayana traditions and the ways that emptiness and Buddha nature kind of play out in their characteristic practices. So first of all, I want to talk about Zen. This is probably the most famous of the Mahayana, but not Vajrayana traditions. And Zen traces its origins to China. And there's a lot of Taoist thought kind of mixed in with what's now Zen. In China, this tradition was called Chan. The Japanese transliterated it as Zen, and the word actually means, it's from the Sanskrit word dhyana, which means meditation. So this school of Mahayana Buddhism really emphasizes meditation, practice, not elaborating like all these philosophical systems and getting all involved with all this conceptuality, but just sitting and directly experiencing reality as it is. So I'll just call it Zen instead of saying Chan. I think in Korean it's called Seon. I'm not sure how to even say it. I'll just call them all Zen. So these systems, there's a real faith or like confidence that if we just sit and drop all the storylines, drop all the endless chitter chatter in our mind, that what emerges is our Buddha nature. So all of Zen practice, whether it's sitting, what they call zazen, or koan practice, where you receive kind of like a mental puzzle that's designed to like engage your conceptual mind, but there is no answer. And then finally your mind just kind of gives up and you break through to that ultimate level of mind. But basically, there you see sort of that connection between emptiness, letting go of the stuff that we thought was us, just letting it go and dropping into our Buddha nature. And now a word from this video's sponsor, you. At least you could be a sponsor of this video. I have set up a Patreon page so you can join for only $3 or $10 a month and get access to live video calls so you can ask your questions like in real time. And if you prefer to just make a one-time gift to support these videos, you can also find a link to do that in the show notes below. So thanks for your support, thanks for watching, and if you like this video or subscribe to this channel, that is helpful too. Now, back to the teaching. The other tradition I just wanted to mention briefly is called Pure Land. And everyone knows about Zen, but not everyone necessarily knows about Pure Land, at least in the West, but it's actually more widely practiced in a lot of traditional settings than Zen is. And Pure Land, there are many different forms of it also. So I don't want to say there's just one form, but a lot of the different Pure Land traditions involve chanting the name of Amitabha, who is the Buddha of infinite light. And he's associated with a Pure Land. So again, one of the things about Buddha nature in the Mahayana tradition is that they kind of redefine the word Buddha. So in the early Buddhist teachings, a Buddha is someone who is born after the Dharma has died out of the world. There's this idea that nothing's permanent, not even the teachings of Buddhism. So sooner or later, everyone will forget them, they'll be lost, and someone will come to, wake up and teach those teachings again in the world. So that's what a Buddha is in early Buddhism. But in Mahayana Buddhism, everyone has Buddha nature. And, there's a saying that like within each atom, there's countless numbers of Buddhas. So just the whole world is suffused by Buddha-ness. And if you wake up and become a Buddha too, then you'll like automatically emanate a Pure Land. Everything you look at, you'll see it with Buddha vision. So you'll see it as beautiful, as pure, etc. And the idea with Pure Land Buddhism is that you're chanting the name of the Buddha, for instance, like Amitabha Buddha, and you develop like an open-hearted connection with that Buddha. So a lot of people think it's like people are chanting to be reborn into, say, Amitabha's Pure Land. And I think that is some people's motivation. But also, what I've heard from people who practice in the Pure Land traditions is that, as you chant, the more it actually begins to transform you, and you begin to see the world around you as a Pure Land. So again, it's this idea that each of us has this Buddha nature, and our job is just to wake up to it, to really connect with it. So emptiness allows us to kind of deconstruct the self we think we are in order for Buddha nature to shine through. And all the different Mahayana traditions, including the Vajrayana ones we're going to talk about next week, they all have that factor in common. So those are some really important contributions of the Mahayana tradition. Again, if you want to dive deeper into it, I listed the name of the book that I was using for this talk. It's called Buddhism, Introducing the Buddhist Tradition. It's in the chat. It's also in the handout that's linked in the chat. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it helps you understand how different forms of Buddhism are connected to each other and like what Buddhism can look like. Because I think sometimes people find one form of Buddhism and they think that's it, but there's so much variety, there's so much diversity, and it's just such a profound set of teachings.